Democrats have a search party for a new leader, and the Democrats stepping up to fill that void show that they are in serious trouble. Far-left darling AOC, who's been, quote, fighting the oligarchy, look at this, was photographed flying first class to one of those rallies. Hypocrisy at its finest. And Democrats' up-and-coming star, Jasmine Crockett, just added another moment to her long list of shocking comments.
So I had to go around the country and educate people about what immigrants do for this country, or the fact that we are a country of immigrants.
Right, right.
The fact is, ain't none of y'all trying to go and farm right now. Okay, so I'm lying. Raise your hands. You're not. We done picking cotton. We are. You can't pay us enough to find a plantation.
Well, if she's looking for attention, she got it.
The Democrats have taken a lot of beatings. They have lost their confidence. They've gone crazy. How about this new one they have? Their new star, Crockett. How about her? Is that real? Are they serious about that? That's their new star? If that's their new star, they're in serious trouble. I mean, this is Crockett. Oh, man.
Carly, well, if you look at the wall, I mean, he's right. Crockett gets 4% for those looking for a new leader.
Yes, I see that wall. And I'm sure people will say, there we go, we got it. Okay, well, first of all, speaking of Jasmine Crockett, I would love for her to make the case for illegal immigration to all the people who live on the south side of Chicago and use that rationale and see what they have to say about it when they're up in arms over how illegal immigration has impacted their life. The other thing is what Bill Maher has recently said, how he says that Donald Trump is an alpha. Democrats, when they're thinking about a leader, need an alpha. Tim Walz is not it. And he also talked about authenticity. And he said that if you're a politician, you need to lean into who you are because people can smell a phony from a mile away. That is what politically damaged Kamala Harris to the point of her election loss. And looking towards the future really could damage Gavin Newsom if he plans to run, because he says one thing and does another, from everything from the French Laundry situation to transgender women in women's sports. Democrats don't just need a leader, they also need a message. Like if you look at this hands-off rally that took place this weekend, it was all about hating Donald Trump, Elon Musk, and Doge. So we understand what they don't like, but what are you for? So I'm waiting for a fresh new idea. So far, I haven't seen any.
Well, I do want to play this. Gretchen Whitmer trying something a little different, trying a new message, and it involves supporting part of Donald Trump's agenda. Listen.
I understand the motivation behind the tariffs. And I can tell you, here's where President Trump and I do agree. We do need to make more stuff in America. More cars and chips, more steel and ships. We do need fair trade.
So, David, you have the fighters, the AOCs and the Crockett's, and then you have the Whitmers and the Newsoms who are, let's try a little of what made that guy successful, who's at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
Yeah, but they're kind of trailing right now. You know, they're trailing the head of the spear are the Crockett's and the AOCs. The thing, though, that they've got to recognize is that Americans have a great detector, a great smell detector for hypocrisy. And when you see AOC riding in first class, going to an anti-oligarchy meeting, it reminds me of the millionaire socialists that I used to cover when I covered Latin America, like Raul Castro and the Sandinistas who had, I once did a story about the poor people in Nicaragua rummaging through the garbage of the Sandinista leaders trying to get a lick out of their caviar cans and a sip out of the expended champagne bottles that they had in their trash cans. It's the hypocrisy that they're weakest on, and I think that's what's going to really kill these people on the left, like AOC and Crockett.
Harris, you brought up the battle between the young and the old yesterday, the new generation and old generation. So I wanted to bring up an old generation, and this is a CNN host who said, you've been around for a quarter of a century in politics, and it kind of went like this. Here's Chuck Schumer.
There are a lot of Democratic voters who are not pleased with you. Yeah. I do want to ask you, though, as you speak to them, why do you say that you are the man for the moment when they seem to have an impression that they would like someone else who they think has more fire in the belly from how they see things?
I have the full support of my caucus. Democrats are united. We know who our problem is. Our problem is Donald Trump. We are moving forward. We are totally united. I have the full support of my caucus.
3 times.
They're not united.
Well, and caucus, I mean, the very word, it's a small group of people.
Yeah.
It's not like he's going out to rallies with hundreds of thousands of people. And his name isn't even on the big board. And he's been, you know, a minority leader or majority leader in the Senate for years. Interesting. You know, just looking at the options right now, just on that board, I only see a couple who fall into the next generation, and that's Crockett and AOC, just from what we showed. But there is definitely a push for the next generation. I had on 4 college students and graduates last hour who are Republican influencers. One of them is a host for PragerU. And it was so interesting to hear them talk about what they are focused on. And I would argue this is nonpartisan. They want to know what their futures look like. They don't have 401ks, so they're not that worried about the trade tariffs and all of that right now. But what they do see about it is, well, does that really mean that things are going to be better for us if President Trump makes this happen? I would say that no matter where you are, that next generation is curious about its own well-being. I don't know if you find out by hiring the people who couldn't figure it out for today.
Yeah, and that next generation AOC beating Schumer in polls by double digits, according to Politico.
Yeah, but I do think, I don't know, you're such a generous man, David, but I feel like we're giving them too much credit when you say tip of the spear, because I keep coming back to thinking that there's a difference between entertainment or bottlenecking at a car wreck, an actual strategy, an actual furtherance of policy. So I personally see such a difference of the adults in the room, even if I disagree with their policies, versus the ones that are making headlines by spewing gibberish and or hate. So I think there's going to be a flameout and a burnout, because I cannot see, whether we don't know what the leaders are or not sure of the party, but whoever ultimately wields the reins, there's no way they're going to let these children drive the cart.
Well, I will be on lookout for the children in first class.
Hey, everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.